Mariana Cruz started her day before the sun. The city was still asleep. Neon signs flickered their last glow. Buses hissed empty at curbside stops. She poured a little water over yesterday's instant coffee granules, ate a slice of dry bread, then tied her keys to the string around her wrist. She always did that, ever since the day they slipped between the seat cushions and stranded her for 2 hours outside a gas station. Little mistakes cost time, and time was expensive. She opened the rideshare app. "You are now online." Her car, a slightly dented silver Corolla, came to life with a low growl. The back seat still smelled faintly of vanilla from an air freshener long since faded. Her first passenger was a nurse. Uniform wrinkled, eyelids heavy. "Hospital, please," she said. Mariana just nodded. She didn't talk much. People didn't expect her to. That was fine. Better to listen. By noon, she'd already done 6 trips. A barista. A man in a hoodie who barely looked up. A group of tourists who argued loudly about whether the city smelled like cinnamon or piss. None of them saw her. But she saw everything. The way the app rerouted them through a side street, even though it was clearly blocked off. The extra 5 minutes that suddenly disappeared from the ETA without explanation. The way the fare recalculated mid-ride, twice. She wrote it all down. In a notebook she kept tucked next to the handbrake. Pages filled with timestamps, route anomalies, fare mismatches. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just didn't like being lied to. At first, she thought it was her phone. A low battery. An outdated OS. But it kept happening. Over and over. Different passengers. Different days. Same glitches. Riders began to complain. One woman stared at her phone and said, "It says you took a longer route, but we went straight through?" Mariana just gave a soft shrug. "App's been acting strange lately." The woman frowned. "They better fix it. I'm not paying extra for their bugs." That night, after her shift, Mariana sat at her tiny kitchen table. Her father's photo leaned against the salt shaker. His eyes always looked worried, even when he smiled. She opened her laptop, typed an email to the rideshare company's support line. Subject: Ongoing app routing errors. Driver ID number 084122. She attached screenshots, notes, location tags, even a video she recorded of the app freezing and looping the same left turn 3 times before giving up. She didn't expect a reply, but she sent it anyway. The next morning, she checked her inbox. Nothing. So she drove. And the app glitched again. She added it to the log. She drove the next morning. The city woke in pulses of headlights and bus horns. She pressed start shift, and the rideshare screen blinked her driver ID. Glitches waited for her. A reroute that added a dead-end detour. An ETA that dropped by 5 minutes out of nowhere. A fare that recalculated while the phone sat idle. Each time, Mariana noted it. She didn't tell anyone. She just logged it. She went through the same script every day of the week. Record passengers picked up. Note any app error. Note the mismatch in price. Log timestamp. Log location code. Sometimes she'd pause between rides and scroll through the list, watching the patterns line up like train tracks. You'd think after dozens of errors someone might fix it. But they didn't. By day 7, she knew exactly when it would happen. 82% during rerouting near 42nd and Pine, always between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. 90% of the time the fare changed while the passenger waited silent in the car. She studied the app's update history. Notes in the driver bulletin were thin. "We're aware of routing issues. Working to resolve soon." But that wasn't enough. Mariana didn't want to lose money. But more than that, she didn't like being lied to. One afternoon, she logged into the driver portal to submit another support ticket. This time, she typed clearly. Subject: recurring routing/fare errors. Detailed log attached.
Body:
Driver ID number 084122. Daily routing/fare irregularities observed between Maple Street and Cedar Avenue between 10 to 2 p.m. Attached: CSV log, screenshots, phone video of freeze plus loop. 87 entries in past 7 days. She didn't write, "Fix this for me." She wrote, "Here's what I see. Maybe it helps."
She wanted them to see.
But the reply came back in 2 hours. "Thank you for contacting support. We appreciate your feedback. Our team is looking into it. Sincerely, rideshare support." Nothing specific. Nothing helpful. So Mariana drove again. The glitches kept happening. This time, a middle-aged man angrily tapped his phone and said, "I paid extra for nothing." His voice cracked. Mariana said nothing. She handed him tissues when he looked upset. She took the next ride request. Driving by the tall office towers downtown, she thought, no developer ever rode my route. No product team ever sat in my passenger seat. They had no idea. At home, that night, her bug log had swelled to 150 entries. She opened her laptop again. This time she added snippets of rider comments. "Great driver. App messed up again. Charged me extra reroute. Wrong turn bubble showed, but didn't work." She backed everything up into a spreadsheet, labeled columns. Driver time, passenger comment, map behavior, fare behavior, app version. Her father knocked on her apartment door just after 9. "Why don't you stop so late?" Mariana closed the laptop. "Trying to finish gas money for the week," she murmured. Her father's voice softened. "You doing okay?" "I'm fine," she said. She didn't mention the log. Didn't mention the emails. Didn't say she stayed up analyzing maps instead of sleeping. She just nodded. She went to bed early. The next morning, she drove again. And the app glitched again. This time, it made her take a long detour, even though the street was open. A railroad crossing delay that didn't exist. She dropped the passenger near their destination. They glanced at the fare breakdown. Mariana saw her passenger's eyes flick to the extra charge. They frowned. They stepped out without a word. The next passenger was a young woman with a heavy suitcase. She tapped her phone and said, "It just rerouted me around a road closed months ago." Mariana sighed. Later, she opened her notebook. The log looked overwhelming. She typed another email, this time to a separate escalation address she'd found buried in an old Reddit post, engineering@ridecompany.com. Subject: Developer escalation. Routing logic fault report. Driver number 084122. Body: I am a driver who has logged nearly 200 instances of the same routing issue across multiple app versions. I've attached full data in spreadsheet and CSV. This impacts fare accuracy, rider trust, and platform reliability. I'd appreciate a developer's insight. Thank you. She sent. She didn't expect a reply. At peak hour, she picked up a cybersecurity consultant, a man in pinstripe, thick glasses, phone pressed to his ear. 3 minutes into the ride, he said, "The app thought the street was one way. I live at 27th and Pine. You turned left, but it told me I couldn't. Then changed you. Then froze." Mariana nodded. He said, "Are you logging this?" She shook her head. He said, "You should. It's rare someone sees it across so many shifts." She smiled briefly. He stepped out at his destination. No tip. But he looked at her. Really looked. She couldn't tell if it was pity, curiosity, or respect. Hours later, her phone buzzed. A short email from engineering@ridecompany.com. Hello, Mariana. This is Ellen Rivera, routing team. I saw your log. Would you be open to a call sometime tomorrow?
Aaron.
Her heart skipped. A call. No templates. No autoresponder. A real person read her log. She stared at the screen. Her father knocked again. Dinner's ready. She whispered, I got an email. He smiled. I'll cook more next time. In the hours before the call, she felt jittery. She drove to calm herself. But the glitches still came. She counted them consciously. The map froze 4 times between 10:15 and 10:30. Fare changed once mid-ride. Her notebook nearly filled the page. She arrived home. She cleared living room chairs to spread out her log, printed emails, screenshots. Then she clicked the link for the video call. Hello, a voice said, warm over the crackling connection.
Quiet.
She said, Hi. They said, Thanks for doing this. I looked at your spreadsheet. I think you're onto something. She exhaled. It's our latest routing algorithm, the engineer explained. We rolled it out last week. A subset of drivers, mostly in your zone, are seeing a loop in the rerouting function when a detour overlaps with a dynamic street closure. We'd been chasing ghost errors. Your log is the first consistent data we've gotten. Mariana felt a tightness in her chest. She said, Just wanted things to match what riders saw. They laughed gently. My team will push a hotfix tonight. Could you test tomorrow and let me know if it clears? Aaron asked. Mariana nodded. I will. She closed the laptop. Her eyes stung. She felt seen. Seen in a way she rarely had been. That night, sleep came differently. She dreamt of routes drawn in red pulsing lines, of numbers aligning, of her notebook turning into code. Tomorrow, she thought, it might work. The next day, she drove again. The app glitched once, but it rerouted correctly after one lag. The fare didn't shift mid-ride. Passenger after passenger looked at their phone and shook their head. No surprised eyebrows. No complaints. The routing delay that used to take 5 seconds now took 1. She noted it in her book anyway, but she didn't feel the need to, because the pattern had changed. By evening, she received another email. Hi, Mariana. Fix confirmed. Thank you so much. We're updating routing team credits with your name on this fix. And would you consider a QA contractor role? We're starting a pilot where drivers help test real features. Best, Aaron. Mariana stared. Her father peeked in. You okay? She nodded. I think they recognized me, she said softly. He hugged her. By the end of the week, she had a short online onboarding, training videos, access to a test environment of the app, a new driver dashboard flagged as beta. She drove again, this time tracking test cases in real time. She flagged a potential GPS drift. She suggested a pop-up confirmation when riders reroute. She noted UI delays during peak hours. Her suggestions were logged. Her name appeared on tickets. A junior product manager credited her in internal notes. She still picked up rides. She still drove her Corolla. But now passengers sometimes said, Thank you, driver. They tapped tips without glancing at the receipt. They smiled, waited for luggage, said, Good night, Mariana. She still whispered most of her days, but no longer to invisible walls. She'd spoken up, not with anger, but with clarity. She'd been seen.
And things changed.
Once the fix rolled out, something changed, not just in the app, but in Mariana's world. For the first time, her notebook sat nearly empty. That's rare in a system built on uncertainty. She logged the updated ride. No glitch. No lag. The fare stayed consistent. The reroute was seamless. She watched the map spin smoothly. The dot moved cleanly from point A to point B.
Every timestamp aligned.
This was what it was meant to feel like. Riders noticed. A man said, "That was quicker than usual." A college student laughed. App's finally behaving. They didn't know her name, but she felt their relief. She still drove the Corolla. She still ate instant coffee. She still zipped her badge to her wrist before stepping out. But she felt different. Her own reflection in the rearview mirror didn't look like someone invisible anymore. It looked like someone who mattered. She opened a message in her email inbox. From Aaron at ride-company.com. Subject: QA contractor offer. Mariana, the routing team credits you in the release notes, internally and externally. We'd like to offer you a part-time QA contractor role. Paid work reviewing new features before they roll out. You'd help us prevent issues before they go live. No experience required. Just your insight. Let me know if you're interested. She stared at the screen.
A role.
Not because someone needed help. Not because she was cheap labor. But because she saw something no one else did. A system gap. A human gap. She thought of her father cooking dinner. Of her silent nights at home analyzing shift data. Of every passenger who said nothing but trusted that the app knew better. Now, someone at the core of the company asked, "Will you join?" She replied, "Yes." She asked two things. "Can I still drive my shifts afterward? Will I see exactly what went wrong in the code?" They said yes to both. So she took the onboarding. There were orientation slides, videos about bug tria, and access to a private testing environment labeled Beta Zone. She mass-imported the days she'd driven. Her bug log became a training dataset. During her first QA shift, she encountered a clustering threshold for rerouting that triggered improperly when 3 GPS pings drifted within 50 meters. She flagged it. They confirmed it. Fixed it before full rollout. Her name appeared again. This time in internal tickets. Issue flagged by QA, Mariana Cruz, driver perspective team. A small tag in a digital system, but more meaningful than she ever expected. She felt credible. A subtle power. She still drove rides. But now, she saw them through a new lens. As she picked up a retiree from the airport, he said, "You're the same driver? Smooth ride today." She smiled quietly. New build rolled earlier. He shrugged. "Good for them. You still the best driver in the city." She shrugged again. But her heart felt bigger. That's how change usually works in small gestures. She didn't go on stage. She didn't speak in boardrooms. She just drove. People relied on her. And the company did too. Within 3 months, the company posted release notes on their blog. This update improves routing accuracy and fare consistency by 98% in high-density zones, thanks to feedback from active drivers. They even quoted her. Real insights come from real routes. Mariana Cruz, driver and QA network. She saw her name under a blog post while in her kitchen, coffee cooling. She paused. Felt something swell. Recognition wasn't flashy. It was subtle.
Public. Real.
She texted her dad. They used my line in their blog. He replied with emojis and pride. She saved the screenshot. A quiet new routine. Her days settled into a balanced rhythm. Some mornings she logged into the QA portal first, reviewed test tickets. Sometimes bikes or scooters showed routing drift during weather events. She submitted new reports. Then she'd drive. Passengers sometimes asked about side streets, requested music suggestions, or asked how her day was. Now she said more. "Great idea," she'd say. "Thanks." Sometimes. "It's been a good day."
Her voice was still calm.
But it had weight. Giving back. Months later, the company invited her to record a short user case video. They asked, "Why do this work?" She said calmly, "Because someone had to see what wasn't broken but wasn't working." They edited it into an orientation video for new QA recruits. Her face never appeared. Her voice and words were there with captions, subtly nodding to the kind of change a single driver could spark. New perspectives. At home, she began mentoring a young driver named Tasha, who'd just joined the platform. Tasha drove rides, asked questions, learned the logs. Mariana shared her notebook system. She shared examples of good screenshots. She showed how patterns emerged.
Tasha listened.
They didn't talk every day. But Tasha learned something profound. Your job isn't just the app. Your job is your insight. Inner resolution. Late at night, after both finished shifts, they'd text. "Tasha, I got a weird fare recalculation today." Mariana, take screenshots plus location. Pattern matters. Tasha, am I doing okay? Mariana, you're doing more than okay. And that's how Mariana's story looped back into itself. She began as a driver barely seen. Now she was a mentor. She didn't need applause. She needed acknowledgement. One evening, she parked after a long weekend of QA and rides. She looked at the city skyline from her car. The streetlights blurred. Stars faint above office towers. She whispered to herself, "What if I just stayed invisible forever?" Then she thought of every glitch fixed, every passenger saved from being overcharged, every pattern named. She realized being seen doesn't mean changing who you are. It means recognizing what you already are. Someone who looks. Someone who cares. Someone who quietly made things work better. She closed the door, walked home. Sometimes change doesn't roar. It whispers. It comes from people nobody thinks to look at. Mariana Cruz didn't need a hero's cape. She needed a pattern to follow. And someone to believe it mattered. Sometimes the ripples of a single act reach farther than you expect. Mariana never intended to become more than a rideshare driver. But in her silence, she opened a door. And behind that door were people listening. Unexpected influence. Months into the QA role, the company's new update launched. Press releases and blog posts touted major improvements. Routing accuracy improved by 98% in major zones, made possible by driver feedback. They listed input from field-tested drivers, including Mariana as a named contributor. She received messages from other drivers, some in different cities, thanking her for highlighting problems they'd seen too. It struck her that those glitches, the same ones that frustrated riders and drivers, were widespread. Stories echoed across forums, delayed rerouting, fare recalculations mid-trip, app indexing errors during peak hours. One rideshare glitch in Singapore froze all fares at $6 Drivers slowly realized they were undercharging by a wide margin. Reddit drivers complained their accepted fares disappeared mid-ride or reroutes sent them the wrong direction, triggering frustrations and lost income. Mariana saw reflections of her patterns everywhere. She realized she wasn't alone. Quiet expertise. Her work inspired a trend at the company. They began recruiting active drivers to test new UI flows, ratify fare calculations, and monitor GPS accuracy. Drivers became part of the quality loop they once complained about. Mariana co-wrote guidelines, best practices logging anomalies, screenshot habits, verifiable timestamping. Training modules were launched. They were named a QA dashboard module, driver input, and included a tag, driver observed bugs. For Mariana, this wasn't vanity. It was justice. For a platform built on real rides and real money, the human insight mattered most. Empathy through visibility. In an internal newsletter to drivers, the CEO wrote, "This platform is built on insight from users." Special thanks to Mariana Cruz for reminding us that the most overlooked voices often carry the greatest clarity. Corporate leadership rarely acknowledged drivers publicly. The tone there was new, warm. At home, Mariana printed the email and taped it next to her refrigerator. Her father read it and said, "Esto es tu voz ahora, hija. This is your voice now, my daughter." A subtle rebellion. Autonomous vehicles continue to loom. Robot access plan for cities by 2026 already draw headlines. Business Insider. Many drivers worry their jobs may vanish. They feel the push toward automation. Mariana didn't fear it. She reasoned, robots can't feel the gaps, can't notice patterns, can't understand when a one-way arrow on a map isn't updated. A Wired story cited drivers observing robot access freezing at intersections, unable to adapt to real-world nuisances. Human drivers, conversely, bend rules safely when needed. Mariana believed human insight remained essential. And she believed that, even as systems got smarter, someone needed to offer the human lens. Community echoes. She participated in a virtual meetup for rideshare drivers sharing stories. One driver in Lagos mentioned absurd fare quotes caused by GPS weirdness. In one case, a 38 kilometers ride incorrectly priced at N2,000, less than fuel cost. The app blamed GPS glitches and network issues. TechNext 24. Another driver shared online felonies, passengers complaining of hidden fare inflation or undelivered explanations. The Reddit threads were filled with frustrations that mirrored Mariana's early days. Mariana chimed in, shared her log style, shared how to talk to support, shared screenshots. She didn't need glory. She wanted fairness. She built small bridges among drivers fighting shared frustrations. She thought back. She once considered driving until she earned enough, then quitting. Silence at the beginning seemed safer, but safety felt empty. Her father retired. She paid off some bills. But more importantly, she felt grounded. A year after her first email, she drove by the same intersection, 42nd and Pine. The familiar glitch was gone. The app rerouted correctly. The drive was smooth. She felt a gentle pride. Not boastful. Just gratitude for patterns, for visibility, for quiet insistence. One evening, she sat once more beside her car. Lights blurred in the downtown skyline. A child's laughter drifted from the park across the street. She sipped tea, looked at her badge, still zipped to her wrist. She whispered, "I'm a driver. I'm not in the office towers. I didn't debug your code. I just drove with care." But that was enough. The world doesn't always respond to noise. Sometimes change comes from notes. Small, precise, repeatedly logged. Someone who sees what others overlook. A driver who spotted a glitch. A company that listened. A world made just a little fairer. Mariana didn't need a spotlight. She needed someone to finally look. And once they did, the system shifted. Her story became proof. Real insights come from real routes.